If you are like me and watching nothing but Food Network all throughout the 90s, you are probably familiar with Emeril and the magic dust that he sprinkled on so much of his food. And I think he was onto something. My brother made a batch of essence once and he started putting it on everything. Did it make everything taste the same? Kind of. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. If you can get a couple of really good spice mixes dialed in that your family really loves and that you love, it can make dinner so much easier. A subscriber sent me a whole bunch of spices from Australia, and he also sent this spice and herb Bible. And in this book, there is a recipe for Tunisian spice mix that we're gonna make a little bit later. But for now, I thought I would share some of the spices that came in this absolute monster of a gift box. There's things like river mint, strawberry gum, pepperberry leaf, wattle seed. I don't know what to do with any of this. I have a few cousins in Australia that might be able to help me out. There's so much in here. So this lovely gift really got my wheels turning in terms of spice mixes. So thank you so much, Glenn. All right, shall we make some essence? The recipe calls for 2.5 tablespoons of paprika, 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon black pepper, 1 tablespoon onion powder, 1 tablespoon cayenne pepper, 1 tablespoon dried oregano, and 1 tablespoon of dried thyme. That's why it's spicy, because it has cayenne and a lot of black pepper in it. I'm gonna make sure my label is nice and straight just in case the bear comes over for a random inspection. Now that we've got this essence made up, I think I wanna throw it on some chickpeas and make some crispy chickpeas. That's probably something Emeril never did. So I'm just gonna take the chickpeas. These were cooked in my Instant Pot. One of my favorite ways to use the Instant Pot is to cook beans and chickpeas. And I'm just gonna dry them a little bit in a tea towel and then dump them into a bowl with a bit of olive oil and some of this essence. I'm using about a teaspoon for 2 cups of chickpeas. I feel like that's gonna be pretty good, not too spicy, not too salty. I threw them into a 400-degree oven. I'm gonna cook them for about 10 minutes, give them a shake, and then another 10 minutes. And they should be nice and crispy. While we wait for those, let's make this Tunisian spice mix from this giant book. I'm gonna use a teaspoon of ground cumin, 1.5 teaspoons of ground caraway seeds, a teaspoon of ground coriander. I'm gonna just grind the caraway, the coriander, and the cumin together, and then everything else I have is already in its powder form. 5.5 teaspoons of paprika, 5 teaspoons of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of chili flakes, a teaspoon of fine sea salt, half a teaspoon of rubbed dried spearmint. I actually only have peppermint because it's basically just loose leaf peppermint tea. This is a fun one because mint and caraway are 2 things that I wouldn't normally put together, but it sounds really nice. So let's throw it on some chicken and then grill it up. So I just have 4 chicken thighs here, boneless, skinless. I'm gonna flatten them out a little bit because I want them to cook a bit more evenly on the grill. Didn't go too crazy here, just enough to sort of even out the thickness of them. And then just sprinkle this Tunisian spice mix all over them. I would leave this in the fridge overnight to kind of cure, almost like a dry brine if I had the time. At minimum, I'd say like 15 minutes to sort of really let the flavors penetrate. Okay, so I've got my grill heating up outside. These chicken thighs have been sitting with the rub on for about 25 minutes or so. Let's head outside and grill them up. So after rubbing the grill down with a little bit of oil, I just threw these thighs on, cooked them for probably 5-6 minutes aside, not worrying too much because thighs tend to stay pretty juicy, just till they were about 175 or so internally. And they were so good. And I ended up putting them on top of a nice crunchy salad. Delicious. All right, next. These chickpeas turned out so nice. They're kind of still soft and creamy on the inside, but nice and crispy on the outside. They're perfectly spicy, salty, and I feel like they're just a great little ingredient now that I can just throw on anything. I'm a big fan. I thought for our last spice mix of the day, we would make a Bulgarian spice mix. So this is one that is up to so much interpretation. I think just like any spice mix, when you talk about things like za'atar, curry powder, It's one of those things where like every family, every household, every region makes it a little bit differently. So I'm gonna make my own sort of interpretation. The spice mix is called Sharena Sol. And if my Bulgarian language tutor is watching right now, I hope I did okay there. It's generally some kind of mixture of paprika, cumin, some are savory salt. Sometimes there are things like dried basil, but I personally hate dried basil. Now, my all-time favorite way to use this stuff is on something called a princesa, which is basically just a grilled, kind of broiled, open-faced sandwich. And you can put all kinds of things on them. You often see them with meat, some kind of pork or beef, and it's put on the bread raw, and then it's just cooked right onto the bread. Or you often see a cheese version with kashkaval cheese. I'm gonna make a cheese version today, and this is gonna be my lunch. All I'm gonna do is throw some cheese on some nice homemade sourdough and then sprinkle it with this, and then I'm gonna broil it. This is such good, simple food. I love this kind of thing. And this is just a perfect example of how having a spice mix that you love and that your family loves can just jazz up just about anything. Very excited to have all my little spice mixes on hand. And I hope this video inspired you to spice things up a little bit in your own kitchen. That's it for today. But if you're looking for simple ways to jazz up everyday dinners, I would check out this video next, because I'm making a bunch of different yogurt sauces that are so easy to make that you can throw on anything. Check that out, and thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time.